Okay, right now we're going to start working on the lesson on multiplying fractions. Please make sure that you have your graphic organizer with you and ready to fill out. Well, let's talk first before we begin on how to multiply, on what multiplying fractions looks like. Well, I'm going to read the story problem to you out of the book, and then we're going to show a picture of what it looks like. The problem is, Paige is planting 3/4 of her garden with flowers, and 2/3 of the flowers she plants will be morning glories. What fraction of the garden will be planted with morning glories? Well, we're going to multiply 3/4 times 2/3. But let's draw a picture. Now, first we need to figure out what is 3/4 of her garden. Well, I'm going to draw 3/4 in red. So here's 1, 2, 3 out of the row of 4. 1, 2, 3 out of the row of 4, and 1, 2, 3. So that's 3/4 of her garden. Another way of looking at that is, here's 1, 2, 3 out of the 4 are colored in. So 3/4 of her garden. Now let's work on the 2/3. Here, I'm going to color in this entire row, and then I'm going to color in this row, because if you look at that, that is 1 row, 2 rows, and then there's your 3rd row. So 2 out of the 3 are colored in. Now what we need to look for is, what do they have in common? What did they share? And let's look. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are what 3/4 and 2/3 where they combined. So we end up with 6 out of the total of 12 squares. So 3/4 times 2/3 is 6/12. I want you to stop the video here and color that in and write that in, and then we'll go on. How do we multiply fractions? Well, you don't want to have to draw a picture out each and every time. So here are the steps you follow to multiply fractions. First of all, this first one's going to make everybody happy. To multiply fractions, the denominators do not have to be the same. So no more having to worry about the least common multiple or changing the denominators. So step 2, you multiply numerator by numerator. 3, multiply denominator by denominator. And step 4, you reduce. So in our example, 3/4 times 2/3. Numerator times numerator, 3 times 2 is 6. Denominator times denominator, 4 times 3 is 12. So we got our 6/12. Step 4, we can reduce. In this case, you can divide both numerator and denominator by 6, and you would get 1/2. So in other words, back to our story problem, Paige is going to plant 1/2 of her garden with morning glories. Go ahead and write this down, and then continue on with the video. Let's do some together. 5/7 times 1/2. Again, we don't need to worry about the denominators in this case. They're different, but that's okay when you multiply. You just multiply numerator times numerator. So 5 times 1 is 5. Denominator times denominator, 7 times 2 is 14. And in this case, we cannot reduce. So that's our final answer. Go ahead and pause the video to write it down and then go on. Let's do another one together. We have 7/12 times 2/4. Don't worry about the denominators. 7 times 2 is 14. 12 times 4 is 48. We can reduce both of them by 2. They're both even. 14 divided by 2 is 7, and 48 divided by 2 is 24. We cannot reduce any further. 7/24 is our final answer. Go ahead and write this down and then move on to the next slide. This time we're going to take 3/6 times 8/5. take numerator times numerator, we get 24. Denominator times denominator, we get 30. In this case, we can reduce both of them by 6, and we would get 4/5. And that's our final answer. Now this one I want you to do on your own, 6/7 times 10/11. So stop the video and write out the work on this one. I want you to do another one on your own, 8/9 times 4/5. We're going to look at these tomorrow in class when you bring it in, and today's magic word is chocolate. So good job today, and rewatch the video if you need to, and we'll see you tomorrow.